So hold up, you're telling me you almost went to jail in Japan?
No, I did not. It was a very, very nearly abandoned alley, and it was a probably not even $15.
Hey, welcome back everybody to another episode of V-Time, episode 228. Oh boy.
Oof.
We're on the actual last stretch of reveals for set 4. We're going to see what couple cards there this set is going to finish on. And we're going to start talking about some of the Stride deck sets and what the goodies come in there. And there's not that much news than just updating on a certain situation that's going to be happening. And because of that, I got John here with me.
Hello.
So, without further ado, let's get this show on the road. Ready?
Let's do it.
Hey, yes, package for Mr. Top Deck Heroes.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks. Mr. Top Deck Heroes? Mr. Top Deck Heroes, your package. Man, another one? What is with this guy? Mr. Top Deck Heroes.
Oh, Melody again.
Mr. Top Deck Heroes, your
Oh,
package.
yes.
Oh, God, thank you, that was heavy. What's in that one?
Oh, trading cards.
Cards. Was every one of them cards?
Yeah.
How can you afford that?
Oh, that's interesting you say that. I got it from this Lysciafael bit.
Secret.
Man, these people are crazy.
It's no secret. 50 cards. Use code TD Heroes for a discount.
All right. Starting us off with something that showed up that we kind of predicted, because how the reveals have been happening, we knew there was a double rare left. And it could have been only one of a couple of things. Hell knows it was never going to be Grand Grace support. So it could have only been a direct support for Revoltress or what it is for Bastion. And we have a nifty little double rare grade 3 that utilizing Wizard. So its only ability is auto when this unit is put on Guardian Circle. If you have a grade 3 or greater Vanguard Bastion in its card name, Energy Blast 2, and this unit gets shield 10k until the end of that battle for every 2 of your grade 3 or greater units. So John,
pretty good.
I'm gonna test your Vanguard knowledge.
I don't know what Bastion does, so
don't worry. How much shield value can this thing gain?
well, if you're running a normal board with just your typical front row, odds are maybe you have one grade 3 in your rear guard and then a grade 2. That's how some decks operate. If you have 2 grade 3s, I mean, it's still going to get 20k, I think, max. No, it's only 10k max, right? Hold on.
No. So the fun part about this card. So the fun part about this card is because it doesn't specify field, it just say your grade 3 greater units. It covers not only field, Vanguard Circle, but it also covers the Guardian Circle.
Oh,
which means
now
you can keep guarding with grade 3s from your hand that have 0 value. And basically for every 2 grade 3s you add to the Guardian Circle, this will gain 10k more power.
So it'll essentially turn your grade 3s into 5k shields.
Exactly.
Okay, now I get it.
Now the great part about this card is because when it says when it's placed on Guardian Circle, if you have a grade 3 or greater Vanguard Bastion, it gains 10k in shield until the end of it for every 2 of your grade 3 or greater rear guard. It counts itself, and because your Bastion is a grade 3, it counts Bastion. So immediately, just from
It's a
your
10K on its
Vanguard,
own.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then the part that you might not know, Bastion is my deck is 90% grade 3s.
Okay, yeah. So that works.
Most of the time you will have grade 3s on the board, so this thing, I want to say most of the time this thing will always potentially be like a 20k shield, maybe 30k shield depending on how your board looks. And then of course, like we said, if you just keep throwing down grade 3s from your hand, it's just going to keep getting bigger and bigger.
It's pretty neat.
So I don't have a Hector here, so I'll say it for him. Overall, what Is it a card that Bastion can use? Yes. Is it a card that Bastion potentially needed to be a lot better? Hard to say, because now you got to take away space for potential attackers or stuff that does stuff to put in a guard card, which is not bad, but again, you have to see it if you want to use it.
I mean, that's just a double rare for the set, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's probably not like a staple card for the build, but it's a potential build for like budget builds. Is what I'm saying.
I can see people run 2 of this just to have that little extra defense in the deck. I will say, Bastion getting a double rare that does something like this makes me a lot more salty that Bruce got a triple rare that does what it does. But don't get me wrong, the Bruce triple rare is actually good.
We're coming off the heels of recording Bruce.
Pretty much. Like, the Bruce triple rare is great and all, it just didn't ever fix the fucking problem that Bruce... Anyway, I'm going to stop before I go into Bruce rant here. The other card, the Bastion Guard, because usually these two come in pairs, you know. Stuff usually comes in pairs in this set. Cards get direct support in pairs in this set, except for Bruce, of course. He got only 1 card. Why would Bruce get a second card? Anyway, Heavenly Promise Dragon, Conversions Dragon is the other card the Bastion got. It's also a grade 3 common. Act Rearguard once per turn. If you have a grade 3 or greater Vanguard Bastion in its card name, Energy Blast 3, choose 3 of your Rearguards and they get boost until the end of turn. Overall, not a bad card because you have multiple grade 3s on the board, but Bastion has better cards to give boost, so I think this is just a waste and is not going to get ran. Yes, John?
Dragon, Heavenly Promise Dragon, Convergence Dragon, Keter Sanctuary Dragon. Just
Welcome to Busher of the naming dragons.
Has dragon twice in the name.
That's normal. Almost every single, or at least 50% of every card that has dragon in its card name has another word that has dragon in its card name.
Well, if you go from the Japanese perspective, it's Tensokuryu, so it's a name that has dragon in the name, but that's its describing name, and then it actually has dragon in it, which is just the English, the hiragana of dragon.
See, why do so I get the whole Heavenly Promise Dragon, right? I get that part. Also, real cool showing your Japanese knowledge. I respect that. Anyway, I get I get the Heavenly Promise Dragon part. I get that. But why call it Conversions Dragon? Honestly, if it just said Convergence, that would be a decent name. You already know it's a dragon. Its name is Convergence.
Name is just Convergence.
Exactly.
Konba
Why has to be dragon?
Konba Gensu. Oh, like that is Convergence, isn't it? I get Konba Gensu.
I want to say it is.
It just sounds like the hiragana way to say Convergence. It sounds like. I don't know.
Regardless, the card itself is not bad. There's better cards to give boost, so it might not see play. With all that being said, though, we go into the Tuesday stream, and we got some really cool goodies. So
now I see why you brought me on.
Yes, there's 2 fucking lyrical supports. Yeah, of course I'm going to bring you on. This is the only time you actually get to chime in.
Hooray. All right, so we've got Ringing Song Fiora, grade 2, auto on rear circle. When this unit attacks, if you have a grade 3 or greater Vanguard with Chrisrain in its card name, choose 4 of your units. If you chose 4 units and all of the chosen units have different card names, this unit gets power plus 10 until end of turn. So if you're playing Chrisrain properly, this baby's a 10k all the time.
Yeah. Which, honestly, 20k is not bad. It gives you a beater. Like, you can... Chrisrain is that one of those decks that more than likely you're always going to have enough units on the board that have different names, so you don't have to run one-ofs. It's not a Highlander type deck. But it does have space where you can just throw Highlander type pieces like one-ofs in the deck, so if they show up, they show up. It's not a bad card. I just don't think Chrisrain decks that want to be really good are going to run it.
Well, I think Chrisrain's kind of full with its optimal build. Again, this looks like it's a potential budget piece for people who can't get like a playset of Franset or stuff like that.
Exactly, because most Chrisrain players are going to just, jump ship and go right away to this next card.
Yeah, this one. Ooh, this is beautiful. Chrisrain's going to be so busted. Moderate Mint Rochelle, grade 1, auto on rear circle. When you're grade 3 or greater Vanguard with Chrisrain in its card name attacks, cost Energy Blast 3 and put this unit into Soul. Draw a guard. If your rear guard did not stand by a card's ability this turn, choose a rear guard chosen by the ability of your grade 3 or greater Vanguard with Chrisrain in its card name this turn and stand it. Oh, So, the interesting thing is that this actually changes completely because of the Chrisrain errata.
How so?
The way I've been told. This is the way Alex told me, so if this is wrong, this is Alex's fault. So the way that Chrisrain's new errata ability works is the units that you chose to activate its effect count as being chosen by Chrisrain. So you can choose a unit, you can choose the unit that you didn't choose to give the 15k to restand.
You know what? That actually does make sense because the new erratas. We saw the a version of the errata on the last card we talked about, the 20k attacker. And yes, almost every single card that said different card names from set 1 of DZ got errata into saying choose units. If those units have different card names, do the things. It basically, I'm not gonna go into that again why that got changed, but because of that, Chrisrain chooses the board. And then activates her ability, so you don't have to actually specifically choose the card that was chosen by the 10k plus, but 15k plus that more likely is going to be Francette.
Yeah, ideally
you
you're probably
stand
going to be
anything.
picking Francette no matter what to restand, but this gives you an opportunity to fake people out on whether or not you're going to Divine Seal that turn.
I mean, you still stand the unit regardless of if you're going to Divine Skill or not. The opponent's just now, the only thing that's going to happen is, and this is in my eyes a quote-unquote waste, whenever you do an ability like this, and you stand the rear guard, you now have an extra attacker that's there. Yes, you draw a card, but to me it feels like wasteful, like you could have swung with this and attacked. Divine Skilling just means you're going to get rid of that and call it again, so you're going to get the same attack, it's just going to be bigger with a crit and all that. But now you've lost an attack that was there. So optimally, you want to use this always when you're not going to Divine Skill, and you're not going to use this when you don't want to Divine Skill to be optimal. But I can see a world where people just want to go, okay, cool, I'm going to use this draw card, bounce my board, and call a new card, because whatever I'm bouncing this to hand is not going to do anything. So putting this to soul, drawing something that's like a 15k shield, a perfect guard, or anything else, just might be better than going bounce, call.
Either way, I'm really excited.
It gives
so
Chrisrain the much necessary, here's another attack. You don't have to Divine Skill to get it.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, much needed. Holy shit.
Definitely instant, for sure, playset run.
Fuck, wait,
this one.
cooking. My brain's cooking, 1 sec. I need to find a card. John, you've played Chrisrain enough.
Mm-hmm.
How much CB reliant is Chrisrain?
Fairly. You need to counterblast to use her main ability, so
from what I can remember, it can be CB heavy if you put pieces in, but the main part of the main key cards, like Francette's not a CB.
Francette doesn't require a CB.
Yeah, Chrisrain's the only CB. The guard restricts an energy blade.
And it's the grade 2 that looks at the top of your deck and puts new units down. That is also a CB.
Okay, that's CB. So it can be CB intensive, is what I'm hearing, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, hold up. I'm trying to find. Oh, there it is. How much are you? What do you do again? Oh. This could be. It's a funny combo. The probably is not going to get implemented. I just like the idea of it. So Chrisrain's ability gives a rearguard 15k power, correct? Correct?
Yep.
So, let's say for optimals, or even not optimals, I'll do both numbers. Let's say you Persona Road, right?
Yep.
So John, how would you like if you had a rear guard that on a normal turn is 25, on a Persona Road it's 35. Hell, if you play stuff like a Recuse or anything else to bump it up, it could be bigger. But let's say you have this rear guard, right? And it will restand with the grade 1, and both of its attacks, without drive checks, are going to be double critical.
I'd say I need receipts.
There's a card
Oh,
from set
no.
1
Ew,
of
no.
Lyrical that says
The
when
grade
placed
3?
from hand, Counterblast 2, give it a crit.
There's no way that deck is going to be able to pull that off.
I know. That's why I asked how much CB does that go through. If it was a decent...
However, if you run the countercharging Regalis piece, then maybe, just maybe.
Ideally, you would need 3 CB. But hey, double critical. Swing with Vanguard double critical. Where you stand with double critical. You basically...
I think as fun as that cooking is, I think I'm gonna save that fun rearguard crit stuff for the Michu build.
Yeah.
With the Celestial piece that gives itself crit.
Fuck. Why are you making me cook more? Dude, if you run the Celestial Ryland and get lucky and bind an odd-numbered rearguard... and then just build a board... And then build a board with nothing but grade 1s and 3s.
In all fairness, Chrisrain's ride line is very replaceable.
You just play the encounter ride line. You play Sedna and Aqua and Aqua, and you're good.
But hey, either way, I'm very, very excited about Chrisrain's going to be so much fun to play when the set comes out. I mean, she's already fun to play now, but
yeah. Anyway, moving on. We have a new contender for Lyrical Best Divine Skill deck, and it's a new ride line. So on a soft, we have the starter that's just starter stuff. Lucent Sweet Mills. That sounds like something else. I'm not gonna go into it.
Funny enough, since I don't play it as much anymore, just because it's kind of fallen out, I'm probably gonna just make the grade 0 Loro, just to stick with the cat girl aesthetic.
But this is a cat girl.
I know. So I'd replace that with Loro because I don't play Loro that much anymore, but I still love her art. Just
valid.
make her the grade 0.
All right, John, start us off with the grade 1 ride line to see where we're starting off.
All right, we have Coolest Glance Vilea. When it's rode upon by the grade 2 Mature Lutica, draw a card, choose a card from your rear circle or hand, put it into Soul, and choose one of your Vanguards, and it gets +5 until end of turn.
Not bad. Soul building, filtering, 5k to Vanguard is always good.
I didn't get to do this when we were playing with it, but during my practice rounds, this gives you an interesting option to rush early game, especially if you're going second, because you can put a grade 1 down, rush with it, and then put that grade 1 into Soul just so you're not really losing. You're not losing out from your hand. And it gives you an opportunity to rush early. If people are onto it, though, then they'll kill that rear guard. And
it's basically the Bruce dilemma. The Bruce ride line is very similar, where you ride into grade 2, you choose a card from your rear guard, put it into Soul to draw a card. And a lot of decks that had early game pop, or it could just get rid of that starter and go, you don't get your skill.
But or you can just instead of rushing, you can just put Resius behind her, give her a 10k, so she's 21 attack on your turn 1 swing, so they have to actually put some effort into blocking it.
Pretty much, that's not a bad option.
But it gives you options. I thought it's pretty neat.
I wish Bruce Ryland had this kind of effect. I really do. That way, if people retired my starter, I was like, I can still do shit. Anyway, moving on to the grade 2 ride line is the Mature Lures Lutica. She's a very interesting one. She's a grade 2 that says when this unit is rolled upon by grade 3 or greater. We're a grade 3 card with Lysciafael in its card name, Counter Blast 1 or Energy Blast 3, draw a card and Soul Charge 1. So it gives you an option to Counter Blast or Energy Blast depending on if you're going first, second, resources, yada yada yada, and then draws and Soul Charges, which the fact that this deck builds so much Soul is very interesting to me.
I'm hoping that the support it gets in the future gives you something to do with all of that Soul. Because once you've used the Divine skill, your Soul is essentially useless. Essentially, you have your option between your Counter Blast and your Energy Blast. If you didn't cycle for your grade 1, then you have the energy to spare. But if you usually you'd be running Pressia instead of Valsha Blanc. But like I said before, with the Soul, there might be an option to run Valsha Blanc early. But
you have because we're gonna get to the main Vanguard, and it's an energy blast. And would Valsham Plan be better? Because you building all this soul that we're gonna be honest here, you're not gonna use any.
I think you can probably get away with cycling with Valsham Plan once, because I think for the most part, by the time I got to be able to use the divine skill, I was around 7 soul anyway, so I would have been fine.
Yeah, because because you're gonna go to grade 3, and I'm gonna read it here in a bit. You're gonna have 3 soul just from the ride line. The grade 1 puts a card, and then this puts a card. So you're at 5 soul going into grade 3.
And then the grade 3 puts puts 2 in on attack. So
yeah, read the grade 3 so can we have more perspective.
here we go. Destined 1 of Supremacy, Lysciafael. Vanguard skill. When this unit attacks while not boosted, Energy Blast 3 and put 2 or more rear guards into soul, and this unit gets drive +1 until end of turn. This unit gets power +5 until end of turn for each card put into soul for this cost. And then the divine skill. At the end of battle, this unit attacked a grade 3 or greater unit. If your soul has 6 or more cards, counterblast 1, stand this unit, and it gets drive -2 until end of turn. Until end of this fight, you get all of your Vanguards with Lysciafael in their card name get +5 power and +1 crit. Active on opponent's turn too. I love this card so much.
So yeah, in the context of what we were saying before, you can honestly run one you can use one Valsham securely and still have enough soul, because you're gonna get the 5 cards in soul by the time you get to this card. And then you just put 2 cards in, so you're at 7. So you're always gonna have Divine Skill active if they're a grade 3 going first, going second, regardless. Going first especially, you're gonna put 2 more cards in, so you can even Valsham like 3 times and you're still fine.
Yeah. I think the better option is what you were talking about earlier about, I think was the great one of the early orders that Soul Blast 2 to draw.
I don't remember if it's a Soul Blast 2 to draw. It's there's a lot of orders that are like, there's cards that do stuff. It's just always trying to find, like, there's not a lot of cards in Lyrical that just outright Soul Blast. The biggest card that is very known for Soul Blasting and doing combos is Yuika. If you play her, you can just early game go, plop with a lot of stuff on board, bounce it back to hand, never get punished. But she requires soul.
But she's also she'd essentially be a dead card late game though. I don't think
she wouldn't be a dead card late game. So Yuika for this deck specifically, because let's talk about the other cards, and I'll talk about why Yuika for this deck could be an option.
Actually, now that you mention it, I think I have an idea where you're probably gonna go with this. Your grade 2. Oh, I think we're probably gonna go. We're going into the support for her, right?
We're gonna talk. Let's talk about the support. Oh yeah, that's it. We're gonna talk about the support cards real quick. The only thing I want to say about, like you said, the Divine Skill being a defense card is actually really nice. It saves you the trouble of getting poked by opponents. Helps you guard. Like, it's a constant extra 5k in the sense of guarding, so that's always good.
Plus a guaranteed crit for the rest of the game.
Exactly. As much as your Vanguard is not going to be multi-attacking anymore, just having triple drive with a crit is already dangerous. Hell, Sienna does that, and she's dangerous because of it, and that effect can be turned off in Sienna. While here, it's like, yeah, I'm always active. Doesn't matter what you do, and I'm a big number. All right, so the next card we got.
Because what's his name? What's the unit that turns off abilities?
Blandmire.
Blangmire. Yeah, because that gives you the ability. So even if Blangmire shuts her off,
Blandmire also shuts off any abilities that you might have gotten.
Oh, never mind. Okay.
Yeah. No. The Blandmire. There's literally no case where Blandmire ability can be stopped. Even Ladder, the regular speed order, can actually be shut off by Blandmire, because Blandmire shuts off Vanguard abilities and abilities that the opponent has. So
that's gross.
It is. Anyway, moving on, we're going to look at the support cards that this deck got, and like all of the Divine units, it also got its own generic grade 1 shooting voice Jonette. She's the grade 1 that says continuous rearguard guardian circle. If you have a grade 3 grade of Vanguard, Lysciafael's card name, it gets power 5k, making a 13k attack or a booster, and shield 5k, which makes it a 10k shield.
Yep.
It's honestly just made so that people that want to play Lysciafael straight out of the box can, because you have support cards that can potentially go in. John, what's the next one?
It's a budget piece.
Exactly.
Oh, we have We have Charmy, Present, Amphi. When this unit is placed, if you have a grade 3 or greater Vanguard with Lysciafael in its card name, counterblast 1, draw a card, and it gets +5 until end of turn. When this unit is put into soul by the ability of your grade 3 or greater Vanguard with Lysciafael in its card name, choose one of your Vanguards and get +5 until end of turn.
Honestly, I like this card a lot. The only downside about this that I can find is the fact that it's a grade 3. So you don't have much shield value if this is in your hand. But if you use this, it draws itself back, so you basically don't mind it's a card from hand. It's an 18k beater, which is not a bad number. And then when it's put into soul, because it will be put into soul, because you are going to need a front row open rearguard for another reason we're going to talk about. It basically, with 2 cards in the soul, can give your Vanguard 15k power, which is honestly not bad.
So yeah, the way I had the deck built, this card was essentially replaced by Strega, which gives you basically the counterblast 1, you draw, and it buffs herself by 10. So this is a good budget piece. It's a good part. It buffs your Vanguard. It gives
Strega can do more than this because of her Soul Blast ability, but Strega is a better attacker and a better draw engine in a sense. It draws the same, it's just different timing. It's a better number. So overall, Strega is better than this. But the point is, you have a card that's counterblast 1, draw a card in your deck. And even for budget players, like you mentioned, you have access to this just from this set right away. So it's honestly really good.
Yep. Yeah, playing out of the box is definitely useful.
It's one of those things. Lyrical is one of those odd ones. Like the other nations don't have as much leeway as Lyrical does, but because Lyrical has so many Rylands and so many different, a bigger card pool to choose from, you're always going to find something that's potentially better than the card they get. Like you can replace almost any card that certain cards get with the new cards, unless it's very specific and it extends. Other decks like Dark States, Dragon Empire don't have that much luxury. And speaking of luxury, you really want generic countercharge? Yes, sadly that's not going to happen because we have
Lyrical's never getting generic countercharge.
We got Sway with Swings Balatiel. Anyway, it's a grade 1 double rare for this deck that says continuous rearguard during the battle that this unit boosted. If you have a grade 3 greater Vanguard with Lysciafael in its card name, this unit gets power 5k. So it's the 13k dedicated booster, but it's not really the dedicated booster because it doesn't have its 2k do things behind the Vanguard. Instead, it has auto when this unit is put into soul from rearguard by the ability of your Vanguard Lysciafael in its card name. Draw a card, and if you did not countercharge this one, countercharge one. Damn, this deck does everything, which does annoy me a little bit.
So this reminds me, it's very similar to Loro's countercharger, except this one doesn't get behind her. Mm-hmm. This one you have to put behind one of your rear guards.
And the Loro countercharger doesn't draw your card. This does.
Yeah, that's true. This draws you, which is insane. And even if you're struggling, you can put 2 of them down, get 2 draw off of it, but you only get 1 countercharge. But that's only if you're struggling.
Exactly. So we already talked about how this deck is more likely going to run some sort of card, be it Strega, be it the new triple from set 4, set 1 of Lyrical support booster, be it the actual grade 3 support card we talked about. It's going to one shape or form a card that goes counterblast 1, draw a card. So combine that, and let's say non-divine skill turn, combine that with a Vanguard. Just by putting this in the soul, using that counterblast draw ability, you basically are calling 2 cards from hand, but you are plussing 5 cards back into hand, which is just phenomenal to me.
Yeah, the deck does very well on resources.
Ugh. And yes, I'm still a little bit salty from the game we played. Like, oh, you get to put 2 cards down, put them to soul, and plus 5 cards back. I get to put the 2 cards down, make a board, and plus only 2 cards back. How is this fucking fair?
The game we played not even an hour ago, so it's fresh in your mind.
God damn, look, man, Bruce got injustice, all right? Bruce got so much fucking injustice. Bushiro, what are you doing? Anyway, John, cover the last card, and then we can talk about that Eureka thing I was talking about.
Right, here we go. This is the mainstay. We've got Brilliance Restage Albelina. If you have a grade 3 or greater Vanguard with Lysciafael in its card name, this unit gets +5 power, active on opponent's turn 2. And when your grade 3 or greater Vanguard with Lysciafael in its card name attacks, if your front row has no other rear guards, counterblast 1, stand this unit, and your opponent's Vanguard is grade 3 or greater, this unit gets plus 10k until end of turn.
Jesus Christ, this is just too good.
Yeah, this is you're always going to want this on the board. This is almost always usually in your left guard circle.
This is the only way this attack gets extra attacks without using Divine Skill. And it's a 15k, which means it just hits that awkward number right away. But then it becomes a 25k, which is annoying. And then can get triple drive triggers or even quadruple drive triggers. Fuck.
Yeah, the way this essentially works, the way the deck is supposed to go is you swing with this first as a smaller unit. You swing with your other rear guard column, which should be bigger. And then you swing your Vanguard. You put your other rear guard column into her to give her the triple drive. And then you restand this. So people, especially if you're post Divine Skill, when you're swinging with 2 crit, people are probably gonna have to waste their Sentinel on your Vanguard. So you'll end up putting most of your triggers on her.
Yep.
I love this deck. This is so good. This deck's gonna be really good.
Here's where I think Yuika might honestly be a decent addition. Not only does she present the early game rush aspect of just being able to put your hand down, bounce it back, and not be punished. And we already talked about how you have more than enough soul. If you're going first, you're definitely going to have more than enough soul to do the Divine Skill. If you're going second, you can really spare 1 soul. But at the same time, you can technically use 2 soul, but then suck in 3 rear guards, so you're still there. So it's not going to be hard to Divine Skill. Because of the way the ride line works, it's really not going to be hard to Divine Skill.
Oh, I'm pretty sure if you're going second, you're Divine Skilling on your first grade 3 turn no matter what.
Exactly, because it just puts too much pressure on the opponent, and why wouldn't you?
Yeah, there's no reason not to, especially since it gives you that static ability for the rest of the game. So
exactly. So
if you're going second with Lysciafael, you're always Divine Scaling first turn.
So another reason Yuika can potentially be good in this deck is
I think I see
for
where you're getting
matchups. So it has 2 uses against matchups in my opinion. The first use against matchups is the fact that you can swing with this card, the grade 2 that's going to restand. You can swing with your column, and if that column has a Yuika, you can bounce the card in that column back to your hand, and then put the Yuika in, let's say, the grade 1 countercharger that's behind the Vanguard or something. Or even better, honestly. Hold up. You can do this. Could actually work. Hold up.
I see where you're getting at. Hold on. Let me run my strategy with you again. Because I noticed this in our game. You never swung at my rear guards. So I pretty much had her.
Let's say like this. For one thing, you're fighting against Bruce. Spoiler alert.
I know. No. This is where I'm getting at with this. I'm not sure how I would have fared if you ended up swinging at her and getting rid of her. I'm not sure how easily I could have replaced her. So what I'm thinking you can run is you swing with her unboosted with Yuika. Then after the restand, you swing with Yuika, get her back in your hand to save her.
Exactly, because you're going to potentially fight retire decks, or decks that can bind, or decks that can you get rid of it off the board without swinging into it. So if you don't have another copy ready to go, you're sitting there going, oh, at least I have a 3 attack turn.
And not only that, but the way timing goes is if you're going second, you're Divine Skilling that first turn, you don't need the soul after that. So you can easily pay the soul for Yuika on that second attack.
Exactly.
You don't
now
need
look
your
at
soul
this
anymore.
scenario. Look at this scenario. Let's say you do have the backup in hand and you're fighting something again that does retire, right? And you don't want to waste too many cards on board or whatever. Actually, don't even think about I found this combo that actually might work a little bit. It's just it'll take away Yuikas faster. They're not going to stay on board. So let's say you have a Yuika, right? Let's say you have Strega in front of Yuika. So, and then the opponent's Vanguard is grade 3. So that column is already going to be a 23, potentially 33, which is already a fucking good number. Sorry. Yeah. And then let's say you have your restand on the other side, and behind the restander is the countercharge draw card if it went to soul card.
Mm-hmm.
Are you seeing where I'm going with this?
No.
So look at this scenario. You swing with this grade 2, the restand, that will restand, boosted by the countercharge grade 1. That alone is a 28k attack already. So instead of having like a 15k poke, you have a 28k attacking. Then you swing with, let's say, Strega, for example, boosted by Yuika. We already said that's 33 and it'll draw your card. Then you Soul Blast 1, bounce Strega back to hand to save her for next turn if you have an order to play. Then you swing at Vanguard and you suck in Yuika and the countercharger. So you still get your countercharge and draw. And then you restain this, and this is going to be a 25 now, plus whatever fucking trigger. So you get better power distribution. You still have your front row open to activate this, the restand ability. You've bounced back a piece that potentially is going to be very useful later down the road, because Strega doesn't have to see an order to play to just be placed, attack, cannibalize, draw. That's just how good she is. You still get your condition of putting 2 cards in the soul. And, you know, you just get better overall. That could work.
That could work.
So let me make one thing clear. You don't have to run Yuika's in this. Yuika is just a potential option that can potentially work.
No, the reason all the practice games I played against you and Lon, I was doing just fine without Yuika's.
Exactly. My brain is just going, man, you're building all this fucking soul. Gotta use it somehow. There's gotta be something that's gonna use it.
I imagine if she gets any support in the future, there'll be something to use with the soul. I imagine any future support is probably gonna give you something that does something with Soul Blast. At least I hope.
I know it's a weird timing card, and there potentially might not be space for it. I'm just gonna read a card real quick. Let me just make sure. Oh no, it's Battleface, isn't it? Ah, damn, it's Battleface. Damn it. Right.
I'm thinking since Chrisrain got a restander, these are the second rounds of basically these are the new divine abilities. What I imagine, and tell me if my thought process is wrong on this. They'll give us a grade 1 that if you boost with it, you can probably Soul Blast 2 to put a unit into play to give you a 5th attack. And then you would put that grade 1 behind the restander so that you don't boost with the first attack. Then after you've done the restanding, hold on, I'm getting a phone call.
I noticed.
So is my thought process wrong? I'm thinking that's a potential adding a 5th attack to the deck.
It's decent. It's a decent thought process. That just means that on divine skill turns, you might have access to 6th attacks, which honestly for this deck might be too strong. Let's be honest here.
Yeah. Well, this is my thought process too. When I was asking Matt if Fennel would ever get a restander.
So I do have a theory. So the biggest problem with Lysciafael is the fact that she can't get boosted. She is no boosty. So your back row center rear guard is always going to be quote unquote wasted. I can potentially see a card because there's a chance that every single divine deck is going to get a dedicated booster. And dedicated booster says one specific qualification to them is the fact that on a rearguard circle, they're usually 13Ks. And behind the Vanguard, they do an effect and gain 2K, making them 15K boosters so Vanguards can hit magic numbers. Because Lysciafael can't get boosted, though, that presents a problem. I can see a card that says on rearguard circle plus 5K as normal. But if it's behind the Vanguard, and yes, I know the countercharger has the whole 15K, it doesn't have the 2K, that's my point. I can see a card that says back row center rearguard circle. If your Vanguard is Lysciafael, rest this unit, Soul Blast X amount, do an effect, which could be a call card, could be a draw card, could be anything. This unit gains 2K power, and then give this unit's power to the Vanguard. Or if this unit is put into Soul, give the power that this unit would have had to the Vanguard type deal. That way you still get your 15K quote-unquote booster.
That actually sounds like a much more potential thing.
Like, do something to where it still makes sense to be behind the Vanguard, it gains 2K. I don't know. We'll see. The dedicated booster part is a very interesting mechanic for these divine skilled units. Like we talked about in the last feed time, not a lot of them got them, and there's confirmation that there's a chance that some of them may get it in set 5. So we'll cross that bridge when we get there.
Speaking of magic numbers, Philip, I think we should definitely talk about the elephant in the room here for both this unit and the Vanguard. The fact that they give themselves plus 5k at all times. So this is a 15k grade 2 rear guard at all times.
Yeah, it makes it really hard to swing into.
Yeah. And then your Vanguard is an 18k, which is, I love that.
Wait until you find against the Majesty Lord, where they're constantly 20k Vanguards.
Yeah. No thanks.
Anyway, moving on. Let's continue this train before we stay here too long. We're moving on to some more support, and this time we see the last card of DZ, and that was apparently a double rare for Gravidia Winona. I don't know why they didn't decide to make this card of the day, especially being a double rare. I guess Gravidia, just like Bruce, is not getting any of the love, because this card is honestly decent, but it's not what Gravidia honestly needed. Because we have
Poor Lon.
Auto Drop Zone. When your Meteorite card is put into your Order Zone, other than from drop, if you have a grade 3 grade of Vanguard Northern in this card name, you can Energy Blast 3 and put this card into hand from drop zone. So it's basically a reoccurring, hey, I need an attacker. I like this effect. Let me continue. And then continuous trigger. This unit gets power 5k for every 2 of your meteor cards put into drop from the Order Zone this turn. So I like the first effect because it basically turns, if you have enough energy, it basically turns every single copy of this card into or every meteorite, if this card is in drop zone, into a copy of this if it's in your hand. Because the biggest problem about meteorites is when you place them from hand, you just negged one from hand. There was no pluses anywhere. There wasn't any drawback because they got placed from hand. So you just -1 in hand to get to your conditions. This way, with this card, you -1 from hand, Energy Blast 3, put this card into your hand. So now at least you have an attacker, but you've still put a meteor into your Order Zone, which is nice. And then this
Again,
thing... Yes?
I'm sorry. I said I'm not super familiar with any non-lyrical ride lines. Gravidia hasn't gotten any real energy use in the new sets yet, has it?
Gravidia got support in Divine sets. I don't remember if that support was energy restricted or not. It was honestly bad support, so that's why it's not in my memory. So it's like, great. Anyway, I like.
Oh my god, that's a scam call. Sorry, my phone keeps ringing.
I like the second ability because more than likely it will always be minimum 15k attacker, potentially 20k attacker because you're going to probably do 5. Most of the time, whenever you're using your main skill, the Vanguard, it would probably be a 20k. Being a plus 15k, so making it 25 is going to be really hard and unnecessary because Gravidia never wants to get rid of 6. To make a point, the grade 2 meteor that counts for 2 only counts for 2 when using the Vanguard ability, which means it doesn't count for 2 when this thing is concerned. However, because of the way Gravidia usually plays, you usually go for 1 of the grade 2 and 3 of the grade 1 meteor for your 5. And then that means you still have 4, which means this is still going to gain 10k power, which is honestly not bad. Now, whenever you go into those cases where you go 2 of the grade 2, 1 of the grade 1, you're going to gain just 5k power, but hey, you're still getting double triggers. Speaking of which, you would know what the Gravidia does, John?
You think I've played it against the lawn enough that I would know by now.
It's probably
I know
one
it's
of
the meteor deck.
It's probably one of the biggest OTK decks that once dominated the meta, but ever since then, it's not really done that much. Its whole shtick is you have meteors in your Order Zone, you put them in through effects, you put them in from playing, you put them in through just doing stuff. And the Vanguard also can put them...
chuck them to give it abilities.
Yes, so depending on how many you chuck, how many abilities you get. If you chuck 1, it only gains 15k. If you chuck 3, it gains 15k and a crit. If you chuck 5, every trigger you reveal gets doubled in the sense of you do the trigger twice. So you gain double the power, and if it's a critical, you gain 2 criticals somewhere, 1 instances of each. If it's a draw trigger, you draw twice. If it's a heal trigger, you try to heal twice. If it's a front trigger, you front trigger twice. And yes, if it's the over trigger, not only do you put 100 million twice somewhere, you activate the additional ability twice, which for Gravidia being a Braincade deck meant the Braincade over trigger went, okay, cool. Your Gravidia is double critical. Give it another... give it double that, so double its crit, so it's a 4 critical, and then activate the additional ability again, so now it's 8 critical.
Which Lon has done once. I have seen it. It has happened.
And then people have done, let's see here. You get a crit, you go to 3, you go to 6, you go to 12. No, I must be misremembering, but yes, there is a possibility where you can have Gravidia have 12 crit.
Fucking die.
Pretty much, and that's basically how it won games back in the day. Is like, oh look, I checked my
potential
OT.
for Gravidia to make it physically impossible for you to survive.
Yeah. So, huzzah. Anyway, moving on.
Can't block this. Just pack up the table.
Moving on, we go finish with set 4, and now we get to talk about the stride decks. So let's talk about the stride deck sets real quick. So John, you being a recently returned player, but technically, do you remember any of these units?
Nope.
Cool. Start us off.
Undying Departed Grenache.
It's only Grenache, yes, but yeah. He's back.
Grade 0.
He's a starter. He used to be really good. Back in the olden days, he was a counter charge 2 card.
Oh. Ew.
Yeah, back in the day. But moving on from him, we have the new, I think this is new. I don't think this is a reprint. I can't remember. I think it is a reprint, but it's so fucking old. Nobody remembered it. We got Parting Shade. And of course, like normal encounter decks and normal stride deck sets, this has the same ability. When this unit is placed by riding from Undying Departed Grenache, you draw a card and you get a Vampire Princess of Night Fog, Night Rose Crest. Your crest generators, yay!
Hey!
All right, John,
Thank God
move
we're
on.
getting a new Elementaria for those.
Pretty much. Moving on to the grade 2. This is where things start to get spicy.
Pirate Swordsman Columbard. Pirate Swordsman seems kind of redundant. Hollow. When this unit is placed on rear circle, you may have it become hollowed. If you do, retire it at the end of turn. When this unit is rode upon by a grade 3/0 with Night Rose in its card game, Soul Blast 1, look at the top 7 cards of your deck. Choose up to 2 normal units without Sentinel from among them, reveal them, put a card from among the reveal cards into hand, discard the rest of the reveal cards, and shuffle the deck. When this unit attacks, if this unit is hollowed, this unit gets plus 5k until end of that battle.
So this just confirms that the hollow ability is coming back, and it's just a nice way to activate abilities when they die, have them, gain benefits. Against retired decks, this is just a really good. Night Rose has always been like, here's my board, I'm going to use it. Here's my board going away, so you can't touch it.
Mm-hmm.
And I do like the ability because it lets you look at top 7 and filter deck fin 2 and potentially find pieces that you might need and set up your drop zone. So overall, not a bad ride line card. I just feel sad because Columbard in V era got such a fucking amazing ability that this in comparison just feels pale. Anyway, moving on to the ye old Vampire Princess of Night Fog, Night Rose. She's back.
Here we go.
And she still has her own old ability because these are basically just reprints. You can still use the old ones like with any stride deck set. And her abilities are Auto Vanguard once per turn, Generation Break 2. When your rear guard is retired, discard the top 3 cards of your deck and you may call that retired rear guard, retired card to rear guard. So basically anything that gets hollowed dies and then you can mill 3 to get it back on the board for reasons that might be obvious later down the road. Its other ability is Auto Vanguard. When your G unit strides during your turn, Counterblast 1, choose one of the cards from the drop, call it a rear guard, and that unit gains plus 2k power until the end of turn. So just a nice Counterblast 1, make a unit on the board, tap a card. I love how these effects, in comparison to what we know now in Standard, feel very pale, but then everything else in the deck just says, you know what, this will work. So John, speaking of which, stride decks have crests, right?
Yep.
And the crests are usually kind of like, let's fix this deck.
All right. Vampire Princess of Night Fog, Night Rose crest. You can perform stride and cannot ride grade 3 or greater cards without Night Rose in their card names. The original power of your grade 3 cards with Night Rose in their card names become 1300 or 13,000. During your turn, if you have a grade 3 or greater Vanguard with Night Rose in its card name, all of your front row units get power +5 for each face-up card in your G zone. When 3 or more of your cards are discarded from deck at the same time by your Vanguard's ability, choose a card from among the discarded cards and you may put it on the bottom of the deck. Oh, that's neat.
It basically comes down to where if you start milling and you mill triggers, you could potentially put those triggers back in the deck. So you're not just milling key pieces, triggers, whatever. Like imagine you mill top 3 and there's the OT. That feel bad. So it's like, I'll grab the OT, put it back in the deck.
Yep.
Comparatively, honestly, with everything else the other Stride decks got, this is somehow on par. I feel like the original 2 Stride decks, Jet and Messiah, kind of got similar type of abilities when it comes to goodness, because Jets is just like, cool, you can time leap grade 3s into 0, so you can time leap everything into everything whenever you need it. Why would you time leap grade 3s into 0s? I don't know, but you can if you want to. And then Messiah's is like, wasn't much to benefit Messiah. It was more to not make lock good again. Because it basically prevented from your opponent having lock cards on their board during their turn, which back in the day was one of the great things about Link Joker, but I guess today is just like maybe too much. Oh, I thought it was a grade 3. Oh yeah, my mistake, correction. Jet's Crest made grade 3s into grade 0s, so you can time leap into grade 1s. The point of, you can still time leap into anything you want was there, but at least now grade 3 weren't just deck cards on board. I think Shiranui and Luard just said, yeah, our extra abilities are going to be broken. Because, how's that fair? I don't know. Shiranui's was like, give dominating units 5k. Let's make magic numbers as well as annoying numbers. And then Luard's is, I think, what takes the cake. Hey, you strode for free this turn? Put a crit trigger back to the deck. It's like, why? Just why?
Oof.
John, you still there? Do I still have you?
Yeah. Yeah, as much as I possibly can keep up.
I know this might be a little bit overwhelming because you never play these cards and G and all that. So I'm going to give you a very easy card to read.
Okay. We have the Mighty Rogue, Nightstorm. What a freaking awesome name. Hollow. When the is placed on rear circle, you may have become hollowed. Hollow ability. If you tire it in turn. Generation Break 2. During your turn, if this unit is hollowed, this unit gets plus 10k. And when this card is discarded from hand while paying for the cost of Stride, draw a card.
Simple, straightforward. Almost every single one of these Stride decks sets got a card that said discard, draw, as well as a GB2 gain thinking power in some way, shape, or form. Honestly, not bad. Simple,
Yep.
straightforward. And then we get to the card that could have been better, but you know what? There's still more reveals to happen, so maybe we do get something better. Because we get Cam the Ghosty. It's a great one that also has the hollow ability, but also has auto when this unit is placed on rearguard from hand. If you have a Vampire Princess of Night Fog, Night Rose Crest, which means you can do this at any point in the game, look at the top 5 cards of your deck, choose up to 1 card from among them, discard it, and shuffle the deck. And then continue to rearguard during your turn. If this unit is hollow, this unit gets power 5k. Now, wait a gosh darn minute. Where have I seen this effect before?
I don't know, but I'm sure he's about to tell us.
There's a grade 1 card in Stoicheia, which this is the nation, that basically has almost an identical ability, but a different condition for gaining power. So it's Philander. It's also grade 1. It also has on place from hand, look at top 5, choose a card from among them, put it discard and shuffle the deck. But it gains 10k power if you have 10 or more cards in your drop.
Well, there you go.
So it's
That's
like
an easy condition to fulfill.
especially in Night Rose, because you're going to be discarding a decent amount to go to ride step, and then after first stride, if you decide to use Night Rose's ability, you're going to be milling minimum 2 cards if you don't choose to put a card back into the deck. So you have ways, and there is going to be ways to mill yourself to the point of 10, so that's going to be honestly manageable. But I do still like the Ghosty because he gains 5k power, making a 13k booster attacker regardless of your drop zone count. So he kind of is better in the earlier games, but Philander kind of gets more power in the later games. So it's like pick and choose your poison.
Plus, Look at him. He's fucking adorable.
He really fucking is. All right, so that's been it for the leaks for this week. As for next week, on the Tuesday stream, we will be seeing recaps of episode 6, as well as the ride line crest and support cars for Hari. So we get to see what that crest and that thing does. I'm interested to see how they're gonna potentially either improve Hari with the crest or make it very lackluster like Night Rose and Messiah's. Who knows? Because Hari has a GB2 ability that on attack does something, which means you're probably never gonna use it because you're mostly striding. The crest might give that GB2 ability to the Vanguard or do something with it. Who knows? That is for next week. As for the Thursday stream next week, we get 6 new promo cards for the Japanese September-October promo packs. One of the cards is featured Direful Doll Telquinia. So more Direful Doll support, and more likely 3 of the cards are going to be the 3 start deck support cards that are missing for the start decks, because we got 3 in the previous packs. So more likely we're going to get the other 3 here, which means we have Direful Doll and 2 more other cards that are going to support something. If they want to be flavorful, it probably is support for, let's see here, Volano and then something else. Regarding news, there's just a couple of tidbits to cover. This might be good news for you and me, John, because starting with Booster Set 5 of Vanguard, as well as Shadowverse Set 7 and other White Swords products, Bushiroad actually will be increasing their prices for cases and stuff, because apparently there is a increase in costs of raw material. Development and production basically went up.
Yeah, sounds about right.
So cases might go up in price. I believe, if I remember 50 cards post, it's about $50 to $100 increase, which in the grand scheme of things is not too much, but it's still, an increase.
And more money, more problems.
Pretty much. Inflation. Huzzah. Anyway,
Yay.
the only other tidbit of news, or it's not really news, it's just something to mention if people have stuck around this long and want to know. There's a fun ruling interaction when it comes to the new set order for Imperio is coming to mind because I hacked it. It's called Impeludio. Anyway, System Codex X. So John, do you know anything about the new set order?
No.
Cool. It basically has an effect that does other things, but the main effect is the fact that whenever you take a damage, if you have 3 or less gauges, and don't worry how you get the gauges, you get the gauge whenever you take damage. So whenever you take damage, you get a gauge. If you have 3 or less damage and the damage you took, if you have 3 or less gauges and the damage you took was a non-trigger unit or a non-trigger card, the Vanguard gains 5k power. So you take a damage, oh look, it's not a trigger, I still gain 5k power. If you have 4 or more gauges, even if it's a trigger, you still gain the 5k power defensively. So it's a very interesting set order that basically just gives defense. Make sense?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
See, the problem with the card though becomes whenever something hits with double critical. And there is a slight interesting, a bit strange ruling interaction where basically the thing that happens is you get hit by a double critical unit. You perform the first damage check and you take the top card of your deck and put it into your trigger zone. Then, if nothing else happens, you resolve the damage and put the card, so you do the whole trigger effect, so plus 10k if it's a trigger, if it's not a trigger, any effects that happen. Then you take that card, put the trigger into your damage zone, then the activation condition of the set order happens, so it's ready to be activated. It goes on standby, but doesn't resolve. It actually doesn't resolve right away. You don't grab a card from your drop, engage it, you don't gain 5k power. You first do the damage for the second check. So you put the card from the top of your deck into your trigger zone, increase your damage, yada yada yada. Do any trigger effects that happen, or actually technically in that moment when trigger effects would happen or any abilities that would happen because of trigger zone, then you can activate the set orders ability, because now you're in a resolution zone where you would resolve any and all abilities, and now you can pick and choose what abilities you want to resolve. So you can give your Vanguard 5k and put a card from your drop into your gauge. You can do a trigger effect if there's any trigger effect. You can do anything else that says when you trigger, yada yada yada. Make sense so far?
No, but keep going.
Anyway, you resolve all these effects that are on
What
standby.
nation is this card in?
Brain Gate.
Okay, then I don't have to worry about it.
More likely Lone's going to be playing it, so you will have to worry about it. Anyway, then you resolve these effects that are on standby. You put the card from the trigger zone into your damage zone, and now the second time the order activates, this time you don't have any damage checks, so you just do it. So it's a very weird timing thing. I don't think it's ever going to be relevant, but if it ever does become relevant, this is how it works.
Just don't get hit by double crit. Duh.
Easy.
Huh.
Anyway, with all of that being said, there's nothing much to talk about anymore. We covered everything that has happened. We covered what's going to be happening next week. It's going to be very interesting. We're going to be slowing down a little bit in the sense of reveals, because next week, like we said, we're talking about Hari. Sorry, we're talking about Hari, and the only thing we're really seeing is probably like Night Rose, the Ride Line, the Crest, and 2 more support cards. One of which is going to be the discard, draw a card for Stride, and then gain 10k power, probably because of Magia ability. Let's be honest here. GB2, Call from Soul, gain 10k power is more likely going to be the ability. So there's not going to be much reveal, so we get to catch up a little bit and do some fun things. You excited, John?
So excited.
You still got Chrisrain to do, so that's going to be a fun one. Anyway, with all that being said, we can end this episode here. Thank you so much for watching or listening. Episode 228 of V-Time. If you like the episode, please do like, share it with your friends. Comment down below what you think of the new Lyrical Ride Line or the Chrisrain support. If you're excited for Night Rose or you're looking forward to Harry. But if you like what we do here, subscribe to the channel, ring that bell to get notified, maybe become a member for some awesome perks. With all that being said, though, I've been Philip.
I'm Jonathan.
And we'll see you guys in the next one.
Later.
Bye-bye.
If you haven't cycled once, then you have the energy blast.
John.
Oh, I'm recording. I'm recording.
But I'm not, which means this part is not going to be put in.
Oh, okay, fine. I'll wait then.